classic stories of American history, right? The brave explorers, the first Thanksgiving. But what if that's just the trailer? What if the full story is way more complicated and interesting? Today, we're diving deep, going beyond the simple version to look at the other narratives, the tough truths, and the ongoing debate about what America's past really means.
Think back to when you first started learning history, probably in elementary school. The goal back then was simple: build a foundation. Introduce the main characters and the big events. And those are the stories that really stick with us, shaping how we first see the nation's history.
Okay, so this slide right here, this is basically the whole puzzle we're trying to solve. On the left, you've got this nice, simple story we tell little kids. And on the right, a pretty chilling primary source from a high school AP class that argues Indigenous people are inferior. The gap between those two is, well, it's huge. So how do we get from one to the other? That's the big question we're digging into.
So yeah, these are the greatest hits, right? Columbus the Explorer, the friendly first Thanksgiving, Pocahontas. And look, it's not that these stories are totally wrong, but they are definitely not the whole picture. They're kind of like the Once Upon a Time opening to a much more complex and challenging story.
And that, of course, leads to the big question, the one every curious person, every historian eventually asks. This is the moment where we stop just accepting a story and start actually investigating the past. So let's do that now.
All right, so this is where we put on our detective hats. History stops being about just memorizing names and dates. Now it's all about sifting through clues, looking at evidence, and trying to piece together what really happened.
And this is the key. It's a skill called argument development, and honestly, it changes everything. It means no historical story is just a fact. It's an argument. Someone is trying to convince you of their version of events. Our job is to look at their evidence and decide for ourselves if it holds up.
Now, this might seem like a tiny detail, right? Starting in 1491 instead of 1492. But think about what that actually means. It forces us to see that America didn't just begin when Columbus showed up. It was already a continent full of complex societies, rich cultures, and long histories. It's a powerful shift in perspective.
And moving from these simple stories to, a real investigation, well, that has massive real-world consequences. And you can see that super clearly when you look at the clash over the land itself and the legal systems that were created to control it.
And we're not just talking about a minor disagreement here. This is a fundamental clash of worldviews. For one group, land is who you are. It's your life source. For the other, land is a thing, a piece of property you can own and sell. This conflict is at the absolute heart of American history, and it had devastating consequences.
Just look at this timeline. It's a pretty tough story of broken promises, one after another. A treaty is signed promising land forever. Then gold is found, and that treaty is broken. Then a law comes along to break up the land that's left. By the time the government sets up a commission to deal with the claims, so much has already been lost, and it was all done under the color of law.
And here's the really chilling part. The U.S. government used the law itself as a tool. By wrapping everything up in the formal language of treaties and agreements, they created this appearance of fairness, of a mutual deal. But really, it was just a way to legitimize the process of taking land. The legal paperwork itself became a weapon.
But history isn't just stuck in dusty old documents and legal texts. It's also alive. It's carved into wood, it's woven into cloth, it's beaded onto leather. It's a whole visual language, and it's full of meaning if you just know how to look.
Take a look at this. This is a Kwaka Kwakwa transformation mask. It's not just a sculpture, it's a piece of living theater. During the ceremony, the outer part opens up to reveal a completely different face inside. It's a storytelling device that makes myths and spiritual beliefs tangible, right in front of your eyes. And it's the same with these incredible leggings. They're not just decorative, they're basically wearable history books. Every single pattern, every color choice, it all communicates something important about family, about achievements, about your place in the world. It's history made visible.
Believe it or not, there's a whole science for this. It's called semiotics, and it's the study of how we use signs and symbols to create meaning. It helps us understand that these cultural artifacts aren't just pretty objects. They are complex language, a way of passing down stories and identity from one generation to the next.
So this fight to keep history and culture alive, it's not ancient history. All those broken treaties and erased stories have fueled a very modern and very real struggle to take back control of the narrative.
18. Just a number, right? But in the context of what we're talking about, it stands for something huge. It represents a powerful, modern act of defiance against centuries of being ignored.
For 18 months, from 1969 to 1971, Native American activists took over Alcatraz Island. This was so much more than a protest. It was a powerful act of reclamation. They took this famous symbol of federal power and used it to send a message to the entire world. We are still here, our treaties matter, and you have to listen to us.
And this quote from the American Indian movement really gets to the core of it all. This fight isn't just about politics or land. At its heart, it's a spiritual struggle. It's about preserving a culture, a connection, and the right for people to tell their own story, in their own way.
Okay, so where does all this leave us? We've gone on quite a journey, haven't we? From those simple stories we learn as kids, all the way to complex legal fights, cultural expression, and modern protests. It's a lot.
It really shows that understanding history is a process. You start with those foundational stories. Then you learn to ask critical questions. You look at the real-world impact, how it affected people. You learn to read the culture, not just the words. And finally, you realize that history isn't over. It's a living thing that we're all a part of.
Because the story of America isn't finished. Not by a long shot. It's being written every single day. So the real question is, whose voices will you choose to listen to as we all write the next chapter?